And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, those who are living across the countries. And Tibet House, in collaboration with several others, centers, organized this 4-day teaching on Rice Sutra, in Sanskrit, Śhālistamba Sūtra, and in Tibetan, Salujang Vedo. So before we request Geshe to start this session, the second last session, I would like to request everybody that those who are an English listener, you can keep the interpretation mode on English, and those who are a French listener, you can turn the interpretation on a French, so that during the interactive session, you could be able to hear the questions. Thank you, and we will have the question answer session at the end of the Geshe teaching. Thank you, and now I would like to request Ajahn Venerable to lead the preliminary prayer, please.
Thank you, Tenzin La, Tashidelek, everyone. I'll wait for the screen share. Let's begin our practice by setting a proper motivation, which consists of 3 parts, while being mindful of both aspects, the object being visualized and the manner in which we visualize it. So first, the refuge field. In the presence of in the space in front of us, let's visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, and all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or any other enlightened beings you regard with veneration. They are looking upon us with immense kindness and unconditional love, just as a mother looks upon her only child. Second, the bodhicitta field. Visualize on either side of you your kind parents, mother on the left and father on the right. Additionally, you're accompanied by all other dear mother sentient beings, leaving none aside, and you're leading them in this practice. Third, the purpose of this practice, to manifest the Buddha nature within you, which is the ultimate source of happiness, by removing the 2 mental obscurations, afflictive obscurations consisting of the afflictions of negative emotions, contaminated karmas and their corresponding active seeds, and cognitive obscurations, the subtle stains, the inactive latencies of the afflictions and contaminated karmas. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Sangye Jodang Sogi Chungnam La Jangjo Bhardu Dagni Kyap Sochi Dagi Jinso Kipe Sonam Ki Drola Pencher Sangye Drupar Shok Sangye Jodang Sogi Chungnam La Jangjo Bhardu Dagni Kyap Sochi Dagi Jinso Kipe Sonam Ki Drola Pencher Sangye Drupar Shok Sangye Chodang Sogi Chognam La Jangjo Bhardu Dagi Kyap Sochi Dagi Jinso Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Drupar Shok. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha by my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Independent origination, there is no ceasing, no arising, no annihilation, no permanence, no coming, no going, no separateness and no sameness. I prostrate to the consummate Buddha, the supreme among all teachers, the one who taught this peace, which is freed of elaborations. I prostrate to the mothers of the hearers, the Bodhisattvas and the Buddhas, which through the knowledge of all lead hearers seeking pacification to complete peace, which through the knowledge of paths causes those helping migrators to achieve the aims of the world, and through the possession of which helps subduers expound a variety of teachings. The one who is transformed into the reliable guide, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and protector, to you I make prostrations. The one who has eliminated the web of conceptualizations and is endowed with the divine bodies of the vast and the profound, who eternally shines forth the forever noble light rays, to you, the Buddha, I make prostrations. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum tesham tathagato yavatat tesham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum tesham tathagato yavatat tesham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum tesham tathagato yavatat tesham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye swaha.
Meaning of the Tenryal Nyingpo mantra: all phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of the causes as well is taught by the great seer. Profound, peaceful, elaboration-free, clear light, and non-composite. Such is the nectar-like Dharma I've discovered. Finding no one to fathom this teaching, in silence, I will retire into the woods. Beyond utterance, thought, and expression is the perfection of wisdom, which is unborn, unseized, and has the nature of space. It is the object of apprehension of self-realized wisdom. To you, the mother of the Buddhas of the three times, I pay obeisance. The four seals of Buddha's teachings. All composite things are impermanent. All contaminated things are of the nature of suffering. All phenomena are of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Transcending sorrow is peace. The Guru is the Buddha. The Guru is the Dharma. Likewise, the Guru is the Sangha. The Guru is the source of everything wholesome. I go for refuge in the Guru. By the sound of the vibrant drum of Dharma, you liberate all beings of miseries. I beseech you to kindly remain and give teachings until the end of the expanse of billions of eons. The Buddha does not wash the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. If you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you're attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view.
Deyathavam gate gate paragati parasamgati bodhi swaha tyata om gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhi swaha tyata om gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhi swaha om gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhi swaha tyata om gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhi swaha tyata om gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhi swaha tyata om gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhi swaha.
Thank you, Ajahn Bhavanila. Now I'd like to request Geshe to proceed the session.
Okay. Thank you, Trishamla. Thank you, Pavanila. And thank you, Tenziramanla. And all the participants here. So in line with what we did the earlier sessions, we will take the expression Bodhisattva vow here as well. And no doubt it's a great opportunity for us to make the most of our being together, taking the expression Bodhisattva vow. This is so precious. So with this mind, as indicated by Pavanila, let us quickly reinforce the visualization of all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas in the space in front of us, as so loving, caring, and embracing. And let us also reinforce the visualization of the Bodhicitta field, your two kind parents, and all the dear sentient beings, including your children, human beings, animals, insects, hungry ghosts, hell beings, god and goddesses. Now so much of violence is taking place around the world, and the natural disasters like the cloudburst, flood, and so forth happening. Let us include all of them, all the beings there with us. It is through cultivation of this great compassion, universal bodhicitta, that the mental defilements will be removed, and collectively, when we engage in the virtues, then the collective virtues karmas can be accumulated, and because of which the collective disasters can be got rid of. And the purpose of this practice is to nullify, to mitigate the power of the self-centered attitude by embracing all other beings with love and affection. So with this in mind, let us mentally invoke the spirit. May I become Buddha for the benefit of all my dear mother sentient beings. And verbally, let us say this together 3 times. May I become Buddha for the benefit of all my dear mother sentient beings. May I become Buddha for the benefit of all my dear mother sentient beings. May I become Buddha for the benefit of all my dear mother sentient beings. With this Buddha spirit, let us recite the following verses together. I go for refuge to the triple gem. I confess the negativities individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all the beings. I hold the precious Buddhahood in my heart. I go for refuge to the triple gem. I confess the negativities individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all the beings. I hold the precious Buddha in my heart. I go for refuge to the triple gem. I confess the negativities individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all the beings. I hold the precious Buddha in my heart. Gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas, please be here to me. Just as previous Buddhas have generated the mind of bodhicitta, and just as they successfully dwell in the Bodhisattva predecessors, likewise for the benefit of all sentient beings, I will generate the mind of bodhicitta, and likewise shall I too successfully train the Bodhisattva predecessors. Gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas, please be here to me. Just as previous Buddhas have generated the mind of bodhicitta, and just as they successfully dwell in the Bodhisattva predecessors, likewise for the benefit of all sentient beings, I will generate the mind of bodhicitta, and likewise shall I too successfully train the Bodhisattva predecessors. Gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas, please be here to me. Just as previous Buddhas have generated the mind of bodhicitta, and just as they successfully dwell in the Bodhisattva predecessors, likewise for the benefit of all sentient beings, I will generate the mind of bodhicitta, and likewise shall I too successfully train the Bodhisattva predecessors. Okay, we will do 5 minutes breathing meditation. Are you ready? Okay, thank you. Where we left last time, it was, so here the what we expected to learn from this sutra is that we are driven by two kinds of ignorance and all experiences of pain in different forms. The three kinds of pain: the suffering change, and the pervasive conditioned suffering. All the three kinds of the pains, they are somehow driven by these two kinds of ignorance. Ignorance which misconceives the law of karma, or which misconceives the cause and effect relationship, and the ignorance which misconceives the reality. And we do find that, number one, we are in samsara. What does mean by samsara? And I'm sure that you have met with many people who say that, no, my life is perfectly all right. I have a beautiful life. This is what some people think, but whereas others think that there is a problem there in the life. And yes, the many of us, and even when we go to the counselors, they advise us, one advice that they give us, that is we have to learn to accept the life, meaning that the misery is a part of your life and you have to accept it. Whereas the Buddha taught that, no, this is not a part of life. This is something we can get over. It's not a part of it. It's not a part of the life. We can get over this. And last time I did indicate that Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory, according to him, yes, it's a part of life. That, for example, say that what really triggers miseries in us are, like, say, the fear, attachment, anger. And when the anger, you lose the sanity. And then you take all undesirable, unwholesome decisions. And the fear is one which is extremely corrosive to our mind. And nowadays, medical experts, they identify, they classify the fear as the one of the negative emotions which consume our immunity, which undermines our immunity greatly. It consumes our the immune system. So once the immunity is finished, then you can contract any illnesses, and your life will be in danger. It'll become the longevity will be cut short. So from this we see that the belief that the fear, attachment, anger, and so forth, these are instincts, and these are evolutionary gifts. In fact, the Charles Darwin would say that these are evolutionary gifts. Without these, we cannot really thrive. We cannot really, our species cannot continue. So this is what he said. And then when the whole, the ethical system, when the whole social system is grounded on this belief that anger, attachment, fear, these are instincts, then naturally individualism will take over as the principle for the people to lead their life. And then when the individualism is there, we're all social animals. We all have to depend on each other. So when the individualism is so much emphasized, then the love and affection towards others, sense of concern for others, it is lost. When that is lost, how we behave is contradictory to the basic nature of our being the social animal. That is being undermined. And then how can we expect to be happy? We are bound to go through all miseries, just say the money for which we strive so hard, the power for which we strive so hard, good health, youth, and so forth, with all these things intact, still people are not happy. People have to depend on tranquilizers, antidepressants, and so forth. So these are the indications that something is wrong, while all what we consider as the mark of a success, while all these are intact, still we are not happy, which means something is missing. What is that? So this is what the Buddha are taught as, that we have the Buddha nature. Unfortunately, Charles Darwin failed to discover that. With the Buddha nature, everyone has a seed of perfection. Everyone, whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. And in fact, I very strongly share with people wherever I travel that where there's a community where the discrimination against gender, discrimination against, say, the ethnicities or caste and so forth happens, this is the sign of backwardness. Because you don't really get the very sophisticated realities. You cannot touch the sophisticated realities. You're being blurred, you're being blinded by the ignorance which is oblivious to the reality, oblivious to the various layers of reality. So let me repeat it, that any individual or any community whose basic mechanism operation is grounded on the say gender discrimination, or the societal say the various discriminations on the basis of caste, creed, and so forth, this is some sign of backwardness. This is 100% this case. Finally, why do we consider somebody as more important? For example, in the olden times, why we consider that the young prince, young child, young son of the king is considered very important. Why? Because he is so special in ways that he will become the king eventually. If that is why he's treated so special, everybody has the potential to become more than a king, to become the perfect enlightened being, to become a Buddha, which means that your lineage is far superior to the king's lineage. So everybody has that, this seed of perfection, has that potential. Because that everybody has this potential, the males, females, or from this country, that country, or from this religion, that religion, from this ethnicity, that ethnicity, from this caste, this creed, and so forth. Everybody has this potential. Everybody is special. Everybody is supreme. So nobody is inferior. So from this recognition, which Charles Darwin failed to discover, which the Buddha discovered, and on that basis, Buddha became extremely strong in ways to revolutionize the whole societal norms. So, where at the time the Buddha, the discrimination against the gender on the basis of gender discrimination, it was so prevalent in those days, and Buddha so strongly fought against that. And then the discrimination on the basis of the caste, creed, and so forth, it was so prominent. And look, this is our human psyche, where in those days, if you belong to the so-called the higher, the status, societal status, in terms of the gender, in terms of caste, creed, and whatever, when you look at the other person who is seen as from the other side, somehow you see that person is intrinsically inferior. And the Buddha said that this is your illusion. It is not the reality. It is on this basis that the Buddha himself, while he was born in the highest caste, according to that time, but the Buddha said that it does not matter whether I'm respected or not. We should follow the reality. Reality has it that everybody is same. There's no one who is lower, no one who is higher. So this is recognition on the basis of the Buddha having discovered the Buddha nature within everyone. So one thing that we need to be aware of is the presence of the Buddha nature within yourself, and that way you will not feel demoralized. You will not feel yourself as helpless, hopeless, and you will not also undermine other people seeing the Buddha nature in others. This is so precious. And on that basis, then we see that how to awaken this Buddha nature, the basic driving force is the universal compassion. With the universal compassion, you embrace each other, then the true nature within us is being activated. So there, the individualism dissolves. And where the individualism dissolves, there's an incredible great peace and harmony, where individuals know each other so well, where the sense of compassion flows, sense of empathy flows. There's no possibility for abusing each other. So this is reality. And then on top of that, so with this, we see that the failure to see the reality, blinded by the ignorance to see the reality of the cause and effect. There's one ignorance which stops us from the unveiling your Buddha nature within us, number one. Then the number two is that failing to see the reality that everything is like a dream, where we see, okay, what you do is that we do one thing. You just pick up anything that is lying next to you. Just pick up something and show that to me. Okay, so most of you picked up a pen or a watch. Okay, Johan, you picked up a watch, not a watch. Okay, spectacles. Okay, so now you look at it yourself, look at it with your own eyes and see how does it appear. Does it appear like illusion or appear as so objectified, so solidified there? Just look at it and tell me, how does it appear to you? Okay, anyone? Raise your hands. How does that appear to you? Okay, Jeffrey, what is your partner's name? Unmute.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, Lori here. It appears to be objectively real. The rosary.
Please say it again.
Yes.
Say it again. Your name?
Lori La.
Okay, Lorila, yes.
It appears to be
And
objectively real, the rosary.
okay, your rosary, objectively real and objectively precious.
Yes. Both.
Okay, objectively holy, right? And objectively the real. Okay, Lorila, thank you. How many agree with Lorila Resens? Yes, the object that I'm looking at it appears so solidified, so objective, so real there. Okay, let's not forget it. This is how things appear to you. Now, not only the object that you picked up, you look at things around you. Just scan through all the objects around you. Just look at all the things around you and see how they appear to you. Objective real or like an illusion, like a dream? How did it appear? Okay, Nirasla, tell me, tell us. Unmute.
Geshe, objectively real.
Everything is so objectively real, right? Okay. And it's very funny. When you meditate on your mind, or you want to see the emptiness of the self, where we are involved with problems. Oh, my neighbor is a nasty neighbor. Oh, the Delhi weather is terrible. Oh, the pollution, traffic. So all these problems, believe it or not, just think of any problem that you have in your life. Problem which makes you really agitated and angry. Just think of one problem, and that too quite a severe one. And you may not tell me, but just think of that. Okay, now this problem, say if I ask you, I'm not going to ask you, but if I ask you, I say, what is the problem? Most likely, the problem is related to point your finger to somebody else. The weather, the person, the neighbor, the boss, your husband, your wife, your children, there's something. something to point to outside. This is reality. Okay, so if that is the case, keep in mind that problem, the same object, the same trigger, which triggered the same object which triggered problem in you, it does not trigger problem to some other person, right? Not necessarily to all, but at least to some people, it does not serve as a problem. How many agree with me, sense? Very good. Okay, so that object serves as a trigger for my problem, but the same object does not trigger problem to other people. It can be an animate object or it can be inanimate object. And the person may be little, say, what, nasty, but this nastiness may be a problem to you, may not be a problem to other people. Okay. So in other words, what I'm trying to share with you is that in all these problems, for you, for me, the problem that we have identified today, that problem involves two things. Like the sound of a clap. Sound of a clap, where the two hands involved. Likewise, that person who is responsible for my problem, or the weather, the problem, or the environment, right? Some people, they said that, no, this place is so bad. For example, I remember some of my friends in Delhi, they say that Delhi is so bad place for Dharma practice. I cannot practice Dharma in Delhi, blaming Delhi, the poor Delhi, right? Delhi does not do anything to you, and you blame Delhi, right? And you want to go somewhere else, that the place will, welcome you, right? And then say, yes, now you have the proper place for Dharma. No, there's no such place. So if there is a problem in Delhi, that problem is because of that problem can be understood with the metaphor of the two hands coming together. One hand symbolizing external factors and the other hand symbolizing your own internal factors. These two come together, then the sound of the problem manifests. And external problems are everywhere. Wherever you go, we have the external factors, I would say. External factors are there. And if you don't believe, say, when you are by yourself with the COVID-19, you are locked down, you are put to lockdown, you feel lonely, you suffer loneliness. How many agree with me? Raise hands. With the lockdown, particularly with COVID-19. Okay, so when you were with other people, you said, I have no privacy. So this is a problem. When you are by yourself, you have the problem of the loneliness. When you are with other people, you have the problem of lacking privacy. And there is no third possibility. There's no third possibility. Wherever you go in the Himalaya, either you should be by yourself or with somebody. Whether you're in Delhi, these are only two options. In Himalaya, these are only two options. Place where Jazumillah became enlightened. The same seed on which you said, you think you become enlightened? No. Because that, it also has the two factors. Either you're by yourself or with somebody else. With yourself, you'll feel lonely. How come that Jazumillah survived by himself all these many years? Or you should be with somebody, I have no privacy. So where you travel is not a place. Where you travel, your self-centered attitude and self-grasping ignorance, these also travel with you. When you go to Himalaya, oh, Delhi is a terrible place. Yes, I have some friends who once blamed Delhi. It's also like in Delhi, nobody could practice Dharma. Nobody's there. Buddhist bodhisattvas cannot come to Delhi at all, right? It's also like His Holiness never comes to Delhi. So the problem that I was literally shocked when the person, when the person came to tell me that, oh no, I will go away from Delhi. There is a terrible place, a city where you cannot practice Dharma. No, don't blame Delhi. right? If you really want to blame somebody, blame your self-centered attitude and self-grasping ignorance. These are the two demons which stop you from having a successful practice. Okay, with this in mind, having said this, we see that for all the problems that you have identified now, it involves two things. One, external factor to be blamed at that person, or my neighbor, or the weather, or what? The lack of the facilities, or the poor governance, and so forth. At the same time, it is a problem for me, that specific I, and the external factors, both are there. Wherever there's a problem, this I is involved. Okay, let's say that, generally speaking, let's say that the COVID, how many you share the same thought which I'm going to share with you now? The first time the COVID, I read it in the newspaper, which said that in China, in Wuhan, there's a virus which came out of control, known as what is that? COVID virus. And in my mind, I never heard about COVID. 2019, end of 2019, I read it. And then in the class, I said that, okay, look, this is what happened. Then after 1 or 2 months, so then this is what happened. In my mind, there was no fear at all. You're getting it? And in fact, many of the people, out of 8 billion human beings, most likely 7.99 the billion human beings, they did not hear about this COVID-19 at that point. Then after a while, it said that 19 people at the airport were diagnosed with COVID. Now it's too close. The airport is about like maybe 20 or 30 kilometers from Tibet House, quite close. And then something is coming here. Something is coming here. And then so okay, now 49, number increased to 49. They were hospitalized in the AIMS, All India Medical, what is that? AIMS, Medical Science Hospital. And then the number increasing, then the government sent directives that all the community centers, cultural centers, they must shut down. Okay, still we see that everything, nobody is COVID around us. But then the fear already started to arise. And then the people pointed to, this building, there was one patient from COVID patient, right? And look at the building. If the building appears as so scary to look at. And then later on, then the people inside starts to be diagnosed with the COVID. Very scary, very scary. Okay, so what I'm saying is that these problems, external factors, it's not persistent a problem. When it's far away, you don't see it as a problem. When it comes closer to somebody, that is I. Closer, 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 then the fear starts to arise. Then it is labeled as a problem. How many agree with me, Resans? Good. So in a way, what I'm saying is that for all our problems, there are two things. External factors are there, and the internal factors are within you. These two things are coming together. And by knowing the cause and effect operation so well, we can cut down many of our problems. For example, like knowing the cause and effect so well, by removing the ignorance, which misperceives the cause and effect, law of karma, you will always engage in a wholesome fashion. Because of which non-virtuous karma will be stopped. Because of which your manifest suffering will stop. So if you do experience something, you will experience happiness. But that happiness is within the confinement of samsara. Why? Samsara means contaminated. So that happiness is the result of the cause, which is also samsaric. in what is samsaric? That the cause is bound by element of samsara. What is that element of samsara? Anyone? So what I said is that if you stop engaging in non-virtuous karmas by getting rid of the ignorance which misconceives the cause and effect, which misconceives the law of karma, then what you do is that you do all in a proper fashion, which are caused with the law of karma, which are caused with the law of cause and effect. That way, your negative karmas will stop. And then the karmas that accumulate will be only wholesome karmas. And what's the outcome of that wholesome karma? Experience of happiness. Where do you experience the happiness? Within the confinement of samsara. Why samsara? Samsara is contaminated. Because the samsara is contaminated, happiness that experience should be also contaminated. And if that is the case, if the result is contaminated, the cause must be also contaminated. What is that cause? Virtuous karma that accumulated. Even that virtuous karma should be contaminated. Okay, yes. The contaminated means that virtuous karma being tainted by something incorrect, some contamination. Anybody who likes to tell us, share with us as to what that contamination is, which makes your virtues, if your virtues contaminated. Anyone, raise hands. Keep in mind that we've already gotten rid of the ignorance which misperceives the law of cause and effect. Okay, Taruna.
To believe that the dream is real.
Okay, to believe that the dream is real. This is ignorance, which believes that everything, while everything is like dream, we see them as real. So I asked you to pick up something and you look at it and you all shared with me that it appears so real, so objectively real. While in reality, the way, the manner in which the dream is subjectively created, not objectively real, everything is like a dream, all coming from your mind, not really from the object. On the contrary, we see them as so objectively real. This is ignorance. Okay, so this ignorance is contamination. And whatever you do with this belief, and how many of you in your life, just think of having done a virtue in your life. Any virtue that you did in your life, think of that. Think of that. And raise hands, say that you have done a virtue which makes others happy, really happy. Raise hands. Who did something at least once in your lifetime? Raise hands. Okay, raise hands. How many of you remember at least some degree of virtues? Raise hands that you have done in your life. Okay, the Hansla, did you do? No virtue? Hansa is very kind. His smile reflects the virtue, right? His smile is so contagious. His smile makes everybody happy. Okay, so we see that everybody has engaged in some form of virtue. But just now think of one virtue that you did in your life. Think of that. Think of that. You may not share it with us, but think of that. And that virtue, you did that in relation to bodhisattvas, or in relation to your to a neighbor, in relation to a poor person outside, in relation to a community, in relation to a social service, in relation to your family members, whatever. Say that virtue done in relation to something. That, how did that object appear to you? That object with which you with which you have done the virtue. How did that object appear to? As real, objectively real, or like a dream? Raise hands. Anyone? Okay, Anna Sophie.
It is objective real for me.
As objectively real. Anna Sophie, would you mind sharing on what kind of virtue you engaged in? Or you don't want to share?
No, it's okay. My grandmother was dying, and I just take her hand so that she doesn't feel known.
Wonderful, wonderful. The grandmother's dying, and then you held her hand to tell her that I'm with you, expressing your love and affection. That is so important. That is so important. And the grandmother appears as object real, right? Okay, Jeffrey La?
Yes, Geshe, very objectively real.
Would you mind sharing your experience or the virtue?
Yes, we had the great fortune of taking care of Nangyal Kensler Geshe Wandak at the end of his life for the last couple of years. So yes, very objectively real, right to the very end.
Oh, yes, Nangyal Kensler Geshe Wandak, yeah, so precious. Yeah, even I had the honor of having received teachings from him. I'm very fortunate. Yeah. Okay. So we see things with which you say make offerings to all the Buddhist Bodhisattvas, and that you see the Buddhist Bodhisattvas object real. So this is how we see things. And while the reality is that nothing really exists objectively, even the virtues that engage in, objects with which you, in relation to which you accumulate the virtue, even these objects appear as object real. So that is the stain, that is contamination. So even those virtues, they are contaminated by these the stains. So that is known as contaminated virtues. Okay. So because it's contaminated, say the contamination means what binds us in samsara. So the results of these virtues contaminated, they will ripen in samsara. Okay. Anyone, what is samsara? Right? What is samsara? Anyone? So we see that contaminated virtues will ripen the results in samsara. For this, we have to identify what samsara is. Anyone? Raise hands. Okay, Venerable Chensola.
Good morning, Geshe. Samsara is the fact that we cycle again and again, like we have a birth and die and birth and die again and again without any control by ourselves, but under the control of karma and affliction.
Okay, the samsara is the way we take birth over and over again without control. Where? In the planet Earth?
In one of the 6 realms.
In one of 6 realms, such as France?
No, not necessarily.
No, not France. France is nirvana.
No, it depends for who.
And okay, to whom? Yes. Okay, there is no particular place to say that this is samsara. You're getting it? This is so important. This is amazing. Say that some people, they say that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the Bodhisattvas are greater than the Buddhas. Some people say like this, too naive. They say that Buddhas, they become enlightened and they leave samsara. And the Bodhisattvas are the ones who pray that I'll come back, I'll come back, right? They come back to samsara. And so like there's the Buddha land where the Buddhas leave and they don't come back to samsara. Samsara is the planet Earth where we are now, right? Yeah, the planet Earth where we are now, this is really samsara, right? The flood is there, chaos are there, domestic violence is there, and the leaders, all the world leaders, they're fighting for the seat, number one, then grabbing at the others. And not only leaders, then the people around, and your family, and you also part of this, right? This is real samsara, right? Okay, it's a place, but it's not a place. You're gonna get samsara. But the world in which we live is samsara or not? Technically speaking, the samsara is not defined as a specific place there. What is samsara? it is, as Venerable Chinzola said, it is contextual. This is so important. If you know what samsara is, if you know what nirvana is, this itself will help us purify our negativities greatly. Because the negativities, negative karma is all created on the belief that things exist objectively. So where we see things that when we see things as empty of objective reality, then you will come to know what is samsara, what is nirvana well. Once you know the samsara and nirvana concept so well, your concept of the reality becomes so clear to us. Because of this, the ignorance, misconceiving the reality, diminishes. When ignorance misconceives the reality diminishes, it is like the foundation of the old negative karmas is shaken. When the foundation shakes and all negative karmas piled on that will shake and will crumble. So this is how the negative karmas are purified. This is so precious. So in this connection, I'd like to give you a simple example, and then from these the session now and the next session, we'll do a little bit of, say, the meditation on what is emptiness. Okay. So let's say that we all to go to Mount Kailash. We all to go to Mount Kailash, and let's say that that Tenzrumla, our program coordinator, Tenzrumla, raise your hand. Okay, keep raising your hand. Others can keep watching you. Good. So Tenzrumla says that, okay, we are all going to go to Mount Kailash for a pilgrimage. And she warns us that Mount Kailash, it is full of snow. And there's no snow glare there, because of which we have to put on the glasses, we have to put on the goggles. And okay, now it's fine. Thank you. Then they say, seeing that there are a number of people here, and the one shop does not have enough goggles. So she pointed to two different shops, shop A and shop B. Shop A, where the goggles are extremely high quality goggles with very clear glasses. And the shop B are locally made goggles, where the glasses are very poor quality, very murky. And group A and group B, you buy the goggles from the respective shops, and this is to us to Mount Kailash. Okay. Then Tenzrumla said that Mount Kailash is so precious, we have to show respect, and it's so beautiful. Then we all go there, and group A looks at Mount Kailash, and we all see Mount Kailash for the first time. And group A looks at Mount Kailash, wow, it's so beautiful. Then you just made prostrations, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. You're so happy, and you thank Tenzrumla a lot. And group B looks at it, oh, it may be very holy, but it's so dirty. It's so dirty, right? And then seeing group A making prostrations with so full of enthusiasm, group B also makes prostrations reluctantly, right? Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, but a dirty Mount Kailash, right? Okay. Now, I'll say my question to you is that group A sees the Mount Kailash so clean. Group B sees the Mount Kailash so dirty. Is it the same Mount Kailash or different Mount Kailash? It is the same Mount Kailash. It's the same. Now, look, then how come that the same Mount Kailash appears as in two different forms to the two different groups, group A and group B? And group A, when it looks at the Mount Kailash, my question to you, when group A looks at Mount Kailash, does the Mount Kailash appear as clean with respect to my glasses, or it appears as clean from the object? Anyone? Alexi, which do you prefer? To like Mount Kailash with your clean glasses, or the dirty glass, or the blurry glasses?
I prefer
Alexei.
clean glasses. Yes. Hello, Geshe.
Clean glasses.
Yes.
Clean glasses. So imagine that you're looking at Mount Kailash through clean glasses on, and the Mount Kailash appears so beautiful and clean from the object, or it appears as clean with respect to my glasses. How does it appear to you, Alexei?
To me, it appears like clean from the object.
Clean from the object. Very good. Okay, let's say that another person who looks at through the blurry glasses, and you look at it, you see the Mount Kailash is very dirty or unclean, or the dirty Mount Kailash. My question to you, when the Mount Kailash appears as dirty to you, just imagine that you are putting the very dirty glass on. So you can do this experiment. It's very simple. I just give the example of the Mount Kailash. I don't think that we can easily go there, but the glass is very easy. You can buy a glass, or if you already have a glass, make sure that your glass, you have two glasses, one which is so clean, crystal clear, spick and span clean glass, and put a clean water there, and another glass which is the not dirty, greasy, and then put a water, same clean water, put in there. Now inside it's just both are the same water, same quality, but from outside we see the one is so clean and the other one is murky water. Okay, now tell me that it's the same Mount Kailash or two different Mount Kailashes? It's the same Mount Kailash, but the same Mount Kailash is seen in two different ways, as objectively as dirty, objectively as clean. Likewise, the same world in which we live. Say there's the same Mount Kailash, the very clean Mount Kailash, with respect to the person looking at through the clean goggles. That Mount Kailash is nirvana, pure of impurities. Whereas same Mount Kailash looked at through the mercury, the goggles, oh, dirty Mount Kailash, there is samsara. Likewise, and what makes the difference? To see the same object as clean and dirty, it depends on the goggles. Likewise, we look at the world through the goggles of your own mind. And for us, unfortunately, the goggles of our lens, the lens of our mind, through which we look at the world, is very dirty. It's filthy, unfortunately. It's filthy with afflictive obscurations and filthy with the cognitive obscurations. Yes, this is how we see. So because of that, we are bound to see things as imperfect. So seeing things, the things that you see with this dirty lens of the lens dirtied by the afflictive obscurations, cognitive obscurations, and particularly the afflictive obscurations, that is known as samsara. And the same world looked at seen through the lens of the clean mind, freed of the the afflictive obscurations, is known as nirvana. And the same world seen through the lens of a pure mind, removed from all the mental defilements, is known as Buddhahood, full awakening. So the same world can be seen in three different worlds, depending on what kind of lens with which you look at the world, what kind of lens do you have. So our job is to remove to cleanse the mind, to cleanse the lens of a mind of the mental defilements. So what kind of mental defilements? Afflictive and cognitive obscurations. And what is this afflictive obscurations? All rooted to the ignorance, contaminant karmas and afflictions. And these are all rooted to the self-grasping ignorance which misconceives the reality. And what is cognitive obscurations? Cognitive obscurations is the subtle stain, subtle remnants of this self-grasping ignorance in the form of the smell of the garlic. Say somebody smashed garlic in my mug, and then they say the person realized that, let's say that the person realized that I don't take garlic. the person is apologetic, and the person, they cleanse the mug with the very clean water, remove all the solid garlics, and there's no trace of garlic left there. But if you smell it, it still smells garlic. So there's no solid garlic, but a smell is left. That is like the cognitive obscuration, subtle smells left by the contaminated karmas and afflictions. Okay, so this smell came from where? From the earlier garlic. Likewise, the cognitive obscurations, this arose as remnants of the afflictive obscurations. Okay, so in short, we see that all these mental defilements, which make us to see the Mount Kailash, a dirty Mount Kailash, that all these are related to the ignorance. And which ignorance? The grossest of the ignorance is the ignorance which misconceives the law of karma. And the subtlest of the ignorance is the ignorance which misconceives the ultimate reality. Okay, now they're combining, putting these two wisdoms together. Putting these two wisdoms together, you cultivate, you see the reality. Somebody says, no, the Mount Kailash is not dirty. So you see it is dirty through your lens, through your the dirty goggles. Remove the goggles and I'll give you my clean goggles. You put on clean goggles, you'll be surprised to see that Mount Kailash is so clean. Okay, so here what we need to do is that we need to remove the old goggle, which is a dirty goggle, which is the metaphor for the ignorance which misconceives the ultimate reality. Replace this with the wisdom to see the ultimate reality. Okay, so this wisdom, now look, so here we cultivate the wisdom to see the ultimate reality. Now, this wisdom blend with the wisdom to see the cause and effect. Now combine the two wisdoms. So you employ this wisdom to see the ultimate reality. Then what happens is that ignorance subsides. Ignorance grasping at the true existence subsides. Once that subsides, then all the other offshoots like attachment, anger, jealousy, all these subside. Like when the iceberg melts, all what is stacked on the iceberg, they crumble down. Likewise, the offshoots of this ignorance, when ignorance subsides, the offshoots of this ignorance, like attachment, anger, jealousy, so forth, they subside. When they subside, all the karmas motivated by these afflictions will subside or will be stopped. When the contaminant karmas stop, particularly negative karmas stop, or the contaminant karmas stop, then the samsara stops. Okay, so this is on the basis of employing the wisdom to see the ultimate reality through the conviction in the wisdom to see the efficacy of cause and effect, applying the cause and effect well by introducing the wisdom to see the ultimate reality. Then the reverse of the 12 links of dependent origination, which the Buddha taught, happens. So because of this, the Buddha taught, whosoever sees dependent origination will see the dharma. And whosoever sees the dharma will see the full awakening of your own mind. All the mental defilements will be removed, and the seed of perfection of Buddhahood will be awakened. So whosoever sees the dharma will see the Buddha. And then the Buddha further taught, because this exists, that exists. What we experiencing, they're not random. They come from their causes. What kind of causes? Because this is produced, that is produced. The cause should be impermanent in nature. It cannot be permanent. What is produced, only if the cause is produced as impermanent, then the result is impermanent. The result will be there only if the cause is impermanent. So the condition of the impermanence. Then the third one, because of ignorance, the formation is created, because of which the consciousness comes into existence, because of which the name and form, the senses, the contact, feeling, discrimination, the craving, grasping, becoming, birth, aging and death, lamentation, bewilderment, all these happen. The heap of miseries happen. Then, if you know the two wisdoms, instead of the ignorance, if you know the two wisdoms, if you inculcate the two wisdoms within yourself, then the ignorance stops. When the ignorance ceases, the formation ceases. When the formation ceases, consciousness ceases. Name and form ceases. Then the senses ceases, context ceases, a craving ceases, then the grasping ceases, becoming ceases, birth, aging and death cease, and all these heap of miseries will stop. So all your miseries will stop by introducing the two wisdoms. And by introducing two wisdoms, the ignorance is removed and the reverse of the 12 links happen. Okay, so this is finally what we need to keep in mind. With this in mind, let us continue to read from the text. Okay. So last time we were talking about the factors, the 5 factors which give rise to the eye consciousness seeing the object, visual object. So now to see that this all happened on the level of the dependent origination, not by some agent to dictate on you, that you are at the mercy of some external agent. No, it's a reality dependent origination. If you know how the dependent origination works so well, then you become the agent. You become the one who can make the dependent origination operate in your favor. Whereas if you are ignorant of this, then the dependent origination will take you over. That you too engage in the wrong, the cause and effect, and give rise to miseries. So, what is dependent origination? It is a pure dependent origination without some external agent dictating on us. So it says, the I does not think. I serve as the basis for the I consciousness. I here is the I sense power. And for the I, when you speak of the I, it can refer to 3 different things. I sense power, I sense organ, and I sense consciousness. So let me quickly explain what they are. I sense organ is the one that you can see. Eyeballs containing the retina and the pupil and the fluid inside the eyeball. All these they form the eye organ. Then the eye consciousness is the non-tangible object. Non-tangible, it is not a physical object. It is in the form of the clear awareness nature, and which has ability to which give you access to the visual objects like flower, house, traffic, food, and so forth. So that is the I sense consciousness. And what is I sense power? I sense power is a physical form. It's not a mental state. It is not a physical. It is a physical form, but it is very subtle physical form. I sense organ is a physical form, but the very gross one, which we can easily see. You can remove the eyeball, and we can see that. Whereas the I sense power is not the physical, the gross physical, the form. It is a physical form, but not a gross physical form. It is very subtle physical form. And this I sense power travels from one life to the other. I sense organ does not travel. I sense power travels. And I sense power is the one which allows you to have access uniquely, which allows you to have a unique access to the visual objects, not to the sound, not to smell, and others, only to the visual objects. So that is, in short, what I can say is that I sense power is a physical object, but not a gross physical object. It's a very subtle physical object which cannot be visible to your eyes. And that is one which travels from one life to the other. It can travel in the form of physical form, or it can travel in the form of an imprint also. I sense power can also become imprint, whereas I sense organ can never become imprint. I sense organ always remains as a gross object. Okay, whereas I sense consciousness is not physical at all. It's the mental phenomena. Okay, these are the distinctions among these 3 things. So here, when is when I is referred to, it means I sense power. But sometimes I sense faculty, I sense power. These two are translated as interchangeably. The I does not think I sense power or I sense faculty, does not think. I serve as the basis for the I consciousnness. Okay, how many of you agree with me? For example, let's say that I've been always seeing the drooping flowers all the time, and they say that I'm so keen on flowers, and one day suddenly somebody brings a very beautiful flower, and I look at it, and very pleasant, you know, the eye consciousness seeing the flower, beautiful flower arises, and because of which I feel so comfortable, I feel so happy. So this, okay, now tell me, this flower, does it feel that, okay, I'm serving as the stimulus for his eye consciousness to arise? Does this flower think like this? Raise hands. Yes, no. Yes, no. Raise hands. Raise hands. Raise your hands. Raise hands. Okay. All the hands, that's why I'm seeing they are the very unique, they are all the what, my longtime friends' hands. I want to see, okay, the Hansla.
Geshe, I would think the flower does not think that way.
Okay, how many agree with Hansla? Raise hands. Good, the flower does not think that I'm serving as a stimulus to him, to his eye consciousness to arise. Okay, now the I sense power. I sense power, or the I sense organ, let's say I sense organ. Does it think that, okay, I'm supporting this I sense power so the I sense power can get access to Geshe Dorji Damdul to see the flower, right? I sense power, I sense organ, my eyeballs. Does it think that I'm supporting the I sense power so that the Dorji Damdul can get access to the flower? Does it think like this? No? Raise hands. No? Good. And that the I sense consciousness, does it think that, oh, I'm given rise to by the flower, I sense power, I sense organ, and the immediate preceding consciousness? I'm so lucky they supported my arising. I consciousness, does it think like this? No? Good. This is a sheer dependent origination. When these things come together, invariably the I consciousness seeing the flower arises. That's it. It's dependent origination. There's no external agent there to decide. That you should be seeing that that these will support you to give rise to this. No, when these things come together, this is a sheer dependent origination. Okay, going back to the text, Ramela. Oh, our young IT staff, Ramela. He's so absorbed in emptiness, you know, he forgot that he's working to help us. I does not think. I serve as the basis for thy consciousness. Nor does form think, form meaning the physical object like the flower. Think, I serve as the object of perception for the eye consciousness. Nor does the light think, think, I function as a visibility for the eye consciousness. Nor does space think, I do not obstruct the eye consciousness. Nor does the appropriate attention, previous moment of the consciousness, think, I provide mental reflection for the eye consciousness. Nor does the eye consciousness think, I'm produced by these conditions. But, or yet, eye consciousness is born, or eye consciousness arises from the presence of these conditions. When these conditions are there, invariably the eye consciousness arises. Similarly, a corresponding analysis should be applied to the rest of the faculties: nose consciousness, ear consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and the mental consciousness. Good. Here, there's nothing whatsoever that, okay, now the first part is done. The next part is there's nothing whatsoever, nothing whatsoever that transmigrates from this existence to the next, which we already did the 5 aspects with respect to the outer dependent origination, like the flower. Now we are doing that with the inner dependent origination, that the self and its aggregates, the 6 elements. Okay. Here, there's nothing whatsoever that transmigrates from this existence to the next with the dependent origin inner dependent origination. Let's say the person dies and takes birth to the next life. So it says there's nothing whatsoever that transmigrates from this existence to the next. This is extremely important, and we all while we think that, oh, I'm a Buddhist, we talk about anatta meaning selflessness. But we feel that there's something which transmigrates from one life to the next life. Is there, okay, my question to you, Ravina, I have a question to you. Is there something that transmigrates from one life to the other? Anyone? Just give your thoughts. You don't really have to comply with what is said in the text. Just what you think. After all these many years of studying the Dharma, what do you think? Resents. Kamaludula, what do you think? Unmute Kamaludula.
Yes, Geshe, I think consciousness travels, transmigrates.
The person migrates or not?
The person, as I don't think, the consciousness.
Okay, Kamaludula is more diplomatic. He saw the text. Okay, if I say something different, then I'm against the text, right? Okay, thank you, Kamaludula. Anyone else? Jeffrey?
Yes, Geshe-la, the mere I transmigrates.
The mere self. The self does transmigrate. The self transmigrates to the next life. And Kamaludula says the consciousness travels to the next life. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, let's say who agrees with Kamaludula's sense? Consciousness travels to the next life. Okay, when I say consciousness travels to the next life, it doesn't rule out that person travels to the next life. You're getting it? Just this information, piece of information, that the consciousness or the mind travels to the next life. Does that make sense? Okay, the person travels to the next life. Raise hands. Okay, don't be scared, right? The two sutra says that there's nothing which transmigrates to the next life. Okay, so the answer is yes, both are correct. Kamaludula is correct, Jeffrey is correct. Yes, the consciousness travels. The person travels. But in the text, in the sutra, it said that there's nothing which transmigrates to the next life. We have to explain this. Luckily, that we are following the Nalanda tradition. Nalanda tradition, which is grounded on a basic teaching of the Buddha, which said that the bhikshus and the wise people, just as the goldsmith tests the purity of the gold by cutting, rubbing, and burning the gold, you should also examine my words and put them to practice, not simply because you respect me. In other words, you have to examine. So this is what the Buddha encouraged us to examine, even his teachings. So that the Nalanda tradition actually allows us to think in various forms, very subtly and very broadly. How? The person, does he travel to the next life? Yes, of course, there's a person. There's a person which travels. Because the Buddha said, the Buddha himself taught that you are the benefactor of yourself. Who else is there as your benefactor? The one who tames one's mind is wise and will be liberated. So that person, if you tame your mind, if you're not liberated in this life, you'll be liberated in the next life. For which means this person has to travel to the next life. If it doesn't travel, then how will this person be liberated? And the Buddha claimed that you will be liberated if you know that you are the master of yourself. So this is in line with Buddha's own teachings. Okay, so and also that the consciousness travels to the next life. This is something which is accepted by all the Buddhist schools. Okay, then what about this sutra? This sutra which says that there's nothing which transmigrates from this to the next. Ramela. which migrates. So it says here, there's nothing whatsoever that transmigrates from this existence to the next life. What does this mean? How do we understand this line? Okay, so let's say that particularly when you were a small child, right? When I was a small child in school, and I see there's some of my classmates, not classmates, my schoolmates here. Sini Zumla is here, my schoolmate. Sini Zumla, raise hand. Okay, she's way junior to me. I won't say junior, she's way younger than me. Okay, and so we see that when I was small, right? We used to have the drama performance by the senior students. And I'm so fascinated. I used to be so fascinated that there's say one person comes as the let's say as a school teacher in a male form, a male school teacher. And then in the next what do you call it? In the next, not really show, in the next the stage, the continuation of this drama, school students, they come, and one school child as a girl comes, and I was so confused. What is that? What I earlier saw as the teacher was a girl now here, right? Okay, so actually the same person takes the perform as the teacher as well as the school child, as a student. So is it possible or not? If it's possible, raise hands. So we see that it's just a change of the clothes. Change of the clothes, it's just the same person. You're getting it? So we get a feeling that when we die, it's just like the change of the clothes, and then you move to another place. Same person moves there, which means that the person is permanent, doesn't change. You're a human being, you're a girl, you're a boy. In the same form, you'll move to the next. It is like the same teacher in the guise of a man. In the next scene, and the person comes as a student, as a girl, right? And I was so confused as a little child, right? That's not allowed because everything should be so intrinsically real for the small child. No, now it's very different. It's the same person, but what is that? I was so confused. Okay, so this is what is being rejected here. What is rejected here is that there's nothing whatsoever as permanent, which moves from one life to the next life. There's nothing like this. For example, and these examples, if you get a little bit of, say, the uneasiness in your mind, that, oh, if this is what migrates to the next life, it's very scary. You get a very uneasy feeling. If that comes, you are in the direction of understanding emptiness. This is so precious. So you have to study emptiness. When you actually get emptiness, if the emptiness is something that you get within a very short span of time, it can be very shocking. And luckily, that even to get an understanding of emptiness will take long time. So our mind will get used to that. And then we see that, yeah, but say there's nothing really objectively there. It's just a mental imputation that the cause and effect, they operate so infallibly. So this is how your mind will be. And then you see that the functionality is very much possible where there is empty of objective existence. Okay, here there's nothing whatsoever that transmigrates as a permanent entity, leaving one place and moving to the next birth, from this existence to the next. And yet, then how does the rebirth accounted for? And yet, because there is no deficiency of the requisite causal conditions, when the causal conditions are intact, then the results, by dependence on these, the results will be originated, dependent on origination. The result of karma nonetheless manifests. It is like now look, the example given here is that it is like the appearance and reflection of a face on the surface of a well-polished mirror. In the mornings, when you look at the mirror, you see you can appear your face on the mirror. Your face do not really move there. It do not really move there. By the play of dependent origination, your face, the light, the distance, the mirror, all these things, and the space, all these factors intact, then the reflection of your face invariably manifests on a mirror. Well-polished mirror, the face has not shifted onto the surface of the mirror, but because there is no deficiency of requisite causal conditions, the face nonetheless appears there. So this is how the reincarnation comes into existence. There's nothing really objectively there, but through the sheer cause, the assembly of the causes and conditions, the result comes into origination or arising. Similarly, there's nobody at all who transmigrates from hereafter death and is born elsewhere. There is nobody as a permanent entity, as an unchanging entity who moves from transmigrates from here, this life, after that, and is born elsewhere to the next life. And yet, because there's no deficiency of requisite causal conditions, a result of karma nonetheless manifests. It is how the orb of the moon travels. Is how the orb of the moon travels at a distance of 42,000 yojanas above the earth. Okay. It says that the distance between the earth and the earth is like 384,400 kilometers. 384,400 kilometers is the distance between the planet Earth and the moon. So it is like how the orb of the moon travels at a distance of 42,000 yojanas. Let me repeat it: 384,400 kilometers. This is the distance between the planet Earth and the moon. So the moon does not travel this distance and to form the reflection in the water body. But the moon is there, the light is there, space in between is there, the water body is there, with all these prerequisite conditions intact, then the reflection of the moon invariably arises. It is like how the orb of the moon travels at a distance of 42,000 yojanas above Earth, and yet its reflection nonetheless appears in small vessels filled with water. It is not that the moon moves from its position 384,400 kilometers in the sky. From there, it moves to the small container. No, it does not do that. It is not that the moon moves from its position and enters the small vessels filled with water. Yet, because there is no deficiency of requisite causal conditions, the orb of the moon nonetheless appears there. Likewise, that there's nobody at all who transmigrates from here after death and is born elsewhere. And yet, because there is no deficiency of requisite causal conditions, the result of karma nonetheless manifests. Is like how a fire ignites from the assemblage of its requisite causal conditions and not when deficient of its requisite causal conditions. Okay. In the same way, although things are devoid of owner, okay, devoid of owner, instead of that, devoid of being an owner, devoid of being an owner, that's slightly different. Devoid of being an owner, meaning that you as the owner, as a permanent entity, which owns the things, which owns or aggregates, and then the devoid of the ownership, you are being, they say you not being the owner, number one. Then number two, there's nobody who owns you. And then ungraspable, like a space, because that the say what you see as a person. Oh, I feel so close to this person. This person is so kind to me. And then when you go too close to grab at it, by going too close at it, you just end up seeing the atoms. On the atomic level, this person which appears as so kind is no more there. So when you go to grasp at it, we see that it is not grasp, it is ungraspable. Space-like, and the nature is the mark of illusion. Illusion meaning that go close to an object, you end up seeing the atoms. And from distance, you see the person, you see the flower, you see this and that. But going closer to the object, you see that there's nothing really there. So like a dream, like a rainbow, which appears so beautiful from distance, closer to the object, the rainbow disappears. So, and their nature is the mark of illusion, because there is no deficiency of regular causing conditions. The seed of consciousness born of karmas and afflictions will nonetheless produce the sprout of name and form. So, say the seed of consciousness sown by the ignorance on the field of the karma, watered by the afflictions or the attachment, the craving, cravings, will give rise to the sprout of you in the form of name and form in the next life, in the mother's womb. Sprout of name and form, within whichever mother's womb one will take rebirth through. Thus is a conditional relation in inner dependent arising to be seen. Here, inner dependent arising is to be seen in terms of 5 aspects. Which five? As not permanent, as not discontinuous, as not involving transmigration, as the formation of a large result from a small cause and a continuous the similar type, which we studied yesterday already. Let me just quickly go through this. Not as permanent, meaning that the seed gives rise to the result. Inner dependent arising, meaning the animate objects like yourself, the beings, animate objects. For example, they say the 12 links. The 12 links, the first link is not identical with the second link. So therefore, the first link is not permanent. There's a change. So therefore, it is not permanent. And it's not discontinuous. Okay, this needs a little bit of explanation. It is not discontinuous, meaning that, okay, so we have let's say that we have a teaching, and then we have how many hours gap? Next teaching, 2.5 hours gap, right? Gap, and the next teaching. So that the teaching discontinues for like 2.5 hours, whereas the first teaching finishes and second teaching continues without any gap. This is continuous. So not discontinuous, meaning that the first link and the second link, these two are, there's no gap there. These two are, although these two are not same, but they continue. The second one continues from the first. So therefore they are not discontinuous. And as not involving transmigration, meaning that a permanent object moving from the first to the next, it does not happen. It migrates, but not migrate in the form of a permanent entity. As the formation of large result from a small cause, like a small seed giving rise to a huge tree, small seed, one tiny small seed giving rise to thousands of seeds from the thousands of fruits. At the continuity of the similar time, whatever result comes into being, that should necessarily be similar in nature with the cause. If you plant an apple seed, don't expect mango fruits to grow. The mangoes will grow only if you plant a seed be similar to the mango fruit in terms of type. The next, how is it not permanent? It is not permanent because the final aggregates at death, when you leave from this life to the next life, at time of death, they are not one thing, and those at birth are another. It's not that it is not permanent because the final aggregate at death are one thing, and those at birth are another. These are two different things. This is not identical. For example that I gave you yesterday, say that I don't know whether I give this in this class or in the other class. Okay, I talked about I think so in this class. Say Shariputra and the dog. You remember that? Good. Okay, a Shariputra and the dog, and this dog take birth as the human girl the next life. So from the animal took birth as a human. It's not a permanent. These two are different. So therefore, these are not permanent. And then that is the final aggregates at death are one, are not the ones at birth. So, saying, and yet only when the final aggregates of death cease do the aggregates at birth arise. So the ceasing of the first moment and arising of the second moment, these two are simultaneous. Let's say that the cause and effect, these two are not simultaneous. The cause and effect, these two are not simultaneous, but the actions related to the cause and effect, these two are simultaneous. Let me repeat it. The cause and effect, these two are not simultaneous. If the cause and effect, if the two things are simultaneous, they cannot be cause and effect. Cause and effect entails the two should be different in times. Yet, the two actions related to the cause and effect, these two should be simultaneous. Let me repeat it. Say, what is the action of the cause? The cause ceases, act of ceasing. And what's the effect? Effect arises, act of arising. So the two actions are simultaneous, but the two agents are not simultaneous. The two objects are not simultaneous. So the cause precedes the result, but the act of ceasing of the cause and the act of arising of the result, these two are simultaneous. Two actions are simultaneous, but the two objects are not simultaneous. Because the two actions are simultaneous, these two are not discontinuous. Next, how is it not discontinuous? It is not discontinuous because the aggregates are at birth do not arise from the final aggregates at death either. Okay, look, say at the time of the birth arises from the death. The birth of the next life arises from the death of the previous life. But the Buddha is, the Arya Maitreya is teaching us here that it is not discontinuous, because the aggregates at the birth do not arise from the final aggregates in what sense? In ways that at death, either when they have already ceased, meaning that the death is already ceased and there's a gap there, and then the birth arises. It doesn't happen like this, number one. Number two, or when they have not yet ceased, the death is yet to be ceased, death is happening and the birth already happens. This is also not true. Like the beam of the scale tilting from up to down, the two actions, ceasing of the cause and arising of the result, the two actions are simultaneous, which means that the two agents, the two objects, they don't have a gap. The aggregates at death arise precisely when the final aggregates at death have ceased. Good. How does it not involve transmigration? So now, as explained before, it does not involve transmigration because beings from different classes of existence bring about their rebirth in a common form of birth, meaning that they say that, for example, say the dog, the existence from a different class, animal class, from there took birth as a human in the next life. So it does not involve the same object as a dog coming to the next life as a dog. Not like that. So therefore, there's no permanent agent there as a person which travels to the next, which transmigrates to the next life. It doesn't involve transmigration because beings from different classes of existence bring about their rebirth in a common form of birth. How does it entail the formation of a large result from a small cause? The ripening of a large result is experienced from having performed a minor action. So for the inner dependent origination, let's say that we should be very careful in our life. We should be extremely careful, particularly I would say that you and me, all of us, we should be very careful to make sure that we don't give into anger. We don't give into, say, the primal anger, because with the anger, all the negative karmas flow out of that. Okay, with anger, for example, let's say that you say something, say just because of what you have in your mind, your wish is not fulfilled, and then you show anger towards somebody else, and then this can vary in different degrees, some can be so severe in ways of abuse of power to really say involved in mass killing and so forth. These are so sad. And in some cases, you can really be nasty in your words with so much anger, you just utter nasty words. Say, if you say that you say something bad towards a bodhisattva, high-level bodhisattva, what a stupid thing. You say like this. You say like this enormous, there's nothing, you don't get anything out of saying this. And yet, the negative karma is so severe. A small cause can give rise to enormous negative, painful experiences in the future. We should be very careful. We should be very careful. So say a small spark can burn the whole village. It's a very tiny spark. Yet if you're not careful, this can burn the whole, ruin the whole, damage the whole village, the whole town, whole city. So it says that a small cause, the formation of, how does it entail the formation of large result from a small cause? The ripening of a large result is experienced from having performed a minor action. We should be very, very careful. Finally, the real enemy is our own anger. What is enemy? Enemy is somebody which brings your miseries. What brings the miseries? The negative karmas. What creates negative karmas? Primarily the anger. We should be very careful to control our anger. This is so important. And when you're angry, you dare to say anything, even against the Buddhas or the Bodhisattvas and so forth. Finish. Say why you are angry today. Because that, I want this person said something bad towards me, and this person related to the Buddhist Bodhisattvas, right? This person is a Buddhist following the Buddhist Bodhisattvas, so I'm against this person. I'm against the Buddhist Bodhisattvas, and then you say such horrible things. You don't get anything in this life. And why you say this? Because you are unhappy with a small thing, and now you are creating this unhappiness, small thing which you cannot bear. You are creating more causes to give rise to 1,000,000 times the unhappy thing which you cannot bear now. This is so unwise. We should make sure that in your family, in your workplace, or in the centers, wherever you are, we should be very careful to make sure that you don't give into the anger. And the anger is our real enemy. We should be very careful. Okay, so small anger. Why you show anger? Don't forget it. I'm repeating this. Why you show anger? Because something small is not accomplished. And some uneasiness is created. So if you're angry. So this uneasiness is created. You cannot bear it. If you cannot bear it, keep in mind that it has two causes, immediate cause and the long-term cause. The real cause is not immediate cause. Immediate cause, the person or whosoever is involved, but the long-term cause is your own negative karma done before, out of anger, out of ignorance. If you really don't want this unpleasant experience and you want to show anger, don't show anger towards the people. Don't show anger towards anything else. Show anger towards your own anger. Show anger towards your own ignorance. And get rid of these two. That is a wise person. Whereas you show anger towards the immediate person and then connect all the connected people to the Buddhas, to the Bodhisattvas, and so forth. You accumulate so much of negative karma that the small thing which you cannot bear now, because we show the anger, this anger is actually creating, say, the same suffering which you're going to bear now, multiplied by millions of times in the future. How can you expect to bear it then? So who is creating all this? Your own anger. So therefore, if at all you want to show anger towards somebody else, show anger towards your own anger. Quit this anger. This is the best way to challenge the anger. Quit the anger. This is so important message. Okay, we continue. Thus, it entails the formation of large result from a small cause. This is so important. a message for us. It involves a continuity of a similar type because the ripening of an action is experienced precisely according to the action performed. Okay, if you engage in a virtuous karma action, then the happiness will follow. If you engage in negative karmas, then experience of pains happen. If the pains happen, keep in mind that this is because of negative karma that I did in a past life. So where I personally, in fact, if you see that overall speaking, that Tibetans, they are very resilient. They are very resilient. It's not that there's something their blood is different, the genes are different. No, this is not the case, because they have learned this, that the experiences of pain that we go through is due to two factors: immediate factors and the long-term factors. And the long-term factor is your own negative karmas. So when you see that, if I do not do this negative karma, then the immediate cause that is right in front of me cannot really create pain in me. So it's, if at all I'm to blame somebody, it is my own negative karma which I did in the past. If I don't want this same experience of future, I should not engage in negative karma. So this helps them to stay away from engaging in negative karmas. It doesn't mean that all the Tibetans are bodhisattvas and Buddhas bodhisattvas. It doesn't mean that, right? So some people, again, they live in another world of the illusion. Oh, Tibetans, they see His Holiness the Dalai Lama as amazing and compassionate, and then they think that all Tibetans are like him, right? Oh, all Tibetans are amazing, amazing, amazing. And when you really see one Tibetan, a nasty Tibetan, then you are just you're just disillusioned that, okay, I thought that all Tibetans like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It's not true. You're getting it? So the point is, generally speaking, this incredibly precious tradition of the Buddha's teachings, which seeped into the Tibetan culture, that Tibetan people, although they may not learn this sutra exclusively, but the practice of this, somehow they distilled, they imbibed from the ancestors over the last 1,000 years. So all of us, we learn this, then the benefit will be even more in the next life. You don't really have to be born as a Tibetan or anything else. Simply by being there, you will behave in such a way that, oh, anger is very dangerous. This makes me to act negative in a non-virtuous way, and which will actually attract more enemies, and that have to go through more miseries. And then when you see these teachings, you'll be fascinated. This is exactly what's going in my mind. Actually, this was what you learned in your previous lives. Okay, which the Buddha taught. Okay, we'll stop here now. And in the next session, which is the last session, we'll continue this text. And then I also like to explain a little bit about the practice of the dependent origin, the concept of dependent origination, and also to entertain some questions. And if you do have questions, please make it, have it prepared. Don't just think that, okay, questions, there are many questions. Don't think like this, because sometimes people say that the organizers, they're so kind. They said that, Geshe, we have so many questions. And I said, okay, yes, then I'll give half an hour for question answers. Finally, I give half an hour, and then sometimes no question at all, right? Sometimes only one question. So therefore, if you do have questions, please note it down, mentally prepare it, the next 1.5 hours or 2 hours gap, think of the questions, and then bring them. Okay, thank you. We'll stop here. Deyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhiswatyata